Oh, I'm a passionate Canadian. I'm a married husband with three sons. I'm a small business owner here in Ontario. And the reason I ran and I am running is because I feel our country has gone in a very dangerous direction. Trudeau Liberals, uh, given the current mandate, are going to destroy our country. And the People's Party of Canada really is the only option for Canadians that want to have no more lockdowns, no vaccine passports, just basically freedom and government accountability. So that's what I'm running, PPC.
Okay, fair enough. We'll get into the questions. Our first question: local businesses have taken a huge hit over the last year and a half plus because of the pandemic. How will you support the economy, both locally and beyond?
I think the biggest thing, especially being a small business owner, it comes down to affordability. It's affordability for Canadians, in their house, but also affordability for me and all of us as small business owners. So I think the biggest and the most important thing to focus on is making things more affordable for us. One of the ways that, to start with, the way that PPC differs from every other party, including the Conservatives, is the immediate commitment to ending the carbon tax. And on top of that, they're going to end all lockdown measures. They're going to allow all businesses to survive and then flourish. Another way they're going to help out big time is reducing government spending, and by doing so, they're going to be able to control inflation, and lastly, be able to reduce taxes again, so I can survive and flourish as a small business owner.
Okay, great. Our second question: keeping with the pandemic, the issue of vaccinations has become quite polarizing. Do you believe vaccinations should be mandatory for any field, politicians, those working in long term care and healthcare, or local businesses?
Absolutely, categorically not. It's an attack on our individual rights and freedoms. Now, it's hard to get away and see how it is with all the government propaganda going on right now. But for the first time in Canadian history, there's a direct attack on our rights and freedoms. Vaccines are brand new, they're experimental, and the PPC and myself included are 100% in support for anybody who chooses to do what they want with vaccines and with their bodies. But the moment you start mandating people do specific things with their body, including an experimental shot, you open up a whole new can of worms. And the question that I want everybody to really ask themselves is, what's next? They can mandate an experimental shot with no proven track record of being effective. Then what's next?
Okay. Our next question, switching topics: the discovery of unmarked graves and the horrors of Canada's residential school system have been thrust into the spotlight over the last few months. How are you personally and your party as a whole working toward reconciliation with our Indigenous peoples?
That's a loaded question. And I think there's a lot of steps involved in figuring that out. I think the PPC specifically, I think one good step, um, just in repairing relationships with the Indigenous, is right now, currently, the federal government gives $24 billion to Indian reserves across the country. And the PPC, again, is the only party that's committed to making chief and councils across all the reserves across our country accountable for the money they spend. I spoke with, obviously, with Walpole Island being so close to Wallaceburg. I'm privy to a lot of conversations with Indigenous people, and one of their longstanding concerns is how their money is being spent. There, there's been, up to this point, there's been no accountability. The $24 billion has been given, and they're, as constituents, as members of Canada, they're left wondering whether or not the money that's been given to the reserves is actually being spent in the most uh, economical and the most strategic way possible. So I think that's a great start. Other than that, just continue on the conversation is a big thing. It started now, so let's keep on talking about it. And communication is always the first step in repairing any relationship.
Okay. Excellent. Our next question, the environment is a hot topic as well, particularly in Chatham-Kent and the Wallaceburg and Lambton County area this summer. The whole conversation around woodlot preservation, not to mention flooding of our local waterways and shoreline erosion. What do you see as the most important next step in terms of taking care of our environment?
Well, I think the environment issue is a very personal one, but I think it's really important with affordability. Affordability for Canadians. Everybody that goes to the grocery store tries to buy some lumber to build their fence. They realize in the last 12 to 18 months, Canada's become way less affordable to live. So, as much as it's nice to have these environmental talks, it's really important. And the People's Party of Canada is focused on dealing with and having discussions in reality. The reality of things is Canada currently produces 1.5% of all world emissions. China produces 28%. And right now, with the Liberal government and the Conservatives and the NDP, they're all committed to continue to make life less affordable for Canadians by sticking with the Paris Accord, sticking with this insane carbon tax. 1.5%, we are crippling Canadians. The Liberals, the Conservatives are going to continue to cripple Canadians with this ridiculous carbon tax, all in the name of trying to reduce for 1.5%. Meanwhile, Justin Trudeau and his love affair with China and allows him to see blindly and see past that. We keep on doing all business relations with China. They're 28% emissions of the total for the whole world. So my biggest thing for the PPC is, hey, let's start putting some pressure on China. Let's start putting pressure on India to reduce their massive amounts of pollution before we start crippling Canadians and trying to reduce our meager 1.5.
Okay, we're going to have to move on to the next question. The need for affordable housing has certainly never been greater, especially at a time when the real estate market is going through the roof. How will you ensure that everyone in Canada is able to be safely housed and home ownership remaining an achievable goal?
I just want to make note of all these questions. They're all very much framed for the Liberal platform. I get Greg Hetherington is running, and I'm going to do the interview, but I can't believe how every single question framed around the very few things the Liberals plan on giving more money out for. I think the biggest thing for the PPC, the biggest thing for Canadians is making life more affordable. And the questions keep on driving me back to the same point. But the answer is not giving out more money. The answer is not continuing to add to the $70 billion in deficit that we experienced last year. It's a terrible platform to continue to try to buy Canadians' votes. I think the best thing that we can do for people trying to achieve home ownership is to get control of inflation. Inflation was at 3.7%, and it's hard to explain, but basically everything is more expensive, including homes. And this is a direct result of the Liberal government's reckless spending and their simple answer of printing more money. PPC is all about fiscal responsibility. Right now, last year, the Liberal government gave $6.9 billion to other countries. And the PPC is committed to keeping all that money in Canada to make life more affordable. The Liberals also just spent $5.9 billion bailing out Air Canada. People's Party of Canada is committed to stopping big business bailouts. And I think that's some fundamental things on how we can make home ownership and life more affordable for Canadians.
Okay. Moving on to the next question. We're running a little short on time. The state of Michigan and Enbridge have been battling over the Line 5 pipeline for months. Those in favor say the pipeline saves the hassle of transporting huge amounts of fuel by truck and train and provides job security for tens of thousands of people on both sides of the border. Opponents say it's unsafe and could cause devastating damage to the Great Lakes. Where do you stand on Line 5?
There's only one stance. And there's only one stance only, and that's to open up Line 5 immediately. Canada is oil rich, and we have to. The world needs oil, and you can have a couple different conversations. I really focus on having conversations in reality. The reality is we have a bunch of oil. We have oil that we haven't even started to process yet, even get into, and pipelines across the country are vital to doing it in a safe, secure, and economical manner. And I challenge and I would invite anybody to debate the other side of that because there's no practical reason why we should have Line 5 and all possible pipelines open and expanded, and really take advantage to the one natural resource, the one area where Canada can really flourish. We can make billions and billions more, so we can pay off our debt and make life more affordable for Canadians.
Okay. Being in office requires collaboration. What is your current relationship with municipal and provincial representatives in your riding? And how do you plan to bridge the divide between party loyalties among your constituents once elected?
For me, specifically, I have born and raised in Wallaceburg. Being a small business owner, I'm in touch with a lot of businesses, a lot of people municipally, and I think working together is huge. And I think ultimately, just being engaged, I'm so passionate. I think personally, focusing on those relationships, building it, working together on all levels will do nothing but provide immense benefits for people of the Lambton-Kent-Middlesex riding.
Anything else you would like to add as your closing statement?
The biggest thing is the People's Party of Canada is a new and exciting party. Like I had referenced a few different times, they're the only party that gives people the opportunity to vote for real substantial change. So I encourage and challenge everyone that's not happy with the Trudeau Liberal government and the way our country is currently being ran. I challenge them to learn and research the People's Party of Canada to decide whether or not that party that aligns with what they see for Canada moving forward.
Okay. Kevin Mitchell for the PPC, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.